Hey everybody, welcome to the CoinGeek weekly live stream. I'm your host, Mr. Kurt Jr. Broadcasting not live this time from sunny South Florida. I am recording this episode on the eve of New Year's Eve, so happy New Year's Eve to the people listening in the background, but happy New Year's Eve to those of you watching the show live at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every single Tuesday. It is New Year's Eve here in the Western Hemisphere. Also New Year's Day in the Eastern Hemisphere. So happy New Year to my Asian and Australian audiences. So let's talk a little bit about 2024. 2024, we got a couple of really great sponsors. Rock Wallet has been wonderful to us, so thank you to Rock Wallet. We also have the Champions TCG folks who have been delightful as well. So thank you to Champions. You guys are awesome, and we support you all the way. 2024 has been a sobering year in many regards. Big halvening year, and that always drives down miner revenue. Miner revenue has been down across the board for several years and trending down, frankly, since like 2018. So to anybody in the mining space, it's been it's been one of those things where it keeps seeming like we're gonna take off here, and it's been a bit of a struggle, but also a little bit predictable. There's also been a whole bunch of stuff going on specifically in the BSV ecosystem that has been a mixed bag. We had a lot of drama with court and all kinds of entities in the space, some mainstays that have decided to throw in the towel, and others that have just generally been a disappointment. Of course, there has also been a lot to be excited about. The main thing that I'm excited about is Teranode. We've been testing Teranode over at Gorilla Pool for 3 months or so, and things have been like weirdly awesome, I guess, is the best way to say it. So I am, I was very cautious about Teranode being exciting for a long time, but now I am getting past cautious and starting to feel just legitimately optimistic about the future there. There's also been huge uptake in tokens, the use of tokens, and really the engineering of the right way to do tokens in a UTXO system. Really starting early last year with the rise of ordinals technology and the creation of one-sat ordinals, and ultimately everything that can be done building on top of those principles of an ordinal token has been a huge bit of progress that has made its way across ecosystems. Now, about 18 months ago, I wrote about the ordinals nomads, and that ultimately ordinals technology would spread across multiple UTXO chains, make their way from BTC and bounce into the BSV ecosystem, and sort of ricochet around the space. And we even see ordinal tokens on things like Litecoin, Doge, and Bells, which is really interesting because all are if we're really loosely defining Bitcoin, they're part of the broader Bitcoin ecosystem in that they are forks of the original protocol, forks and re-implementation with their own rules. And I have said since the beginning that I think that is generally a good thing because you're bringing in new minds. There's a lot of people that have come into the blockchain space post 2018. Actually, lots of people came in 2021. Just because of the pandemic and some other things, and have made their way into Bitcoin for completely non-political reasons. They don't know the scaling war even happened. They just think some of this stuff is cool, or they think it's a good opportunity to invest and make some easy money. But a lot of those people that are there to make easy money, they get interested in the tech, and a lot of these people can be our allies if we don't scare them away. And so this concept of the broader ecosystem, the ordinals nomad, the people that can learn about Bitcoin generically, and then realize that, hey, wouldn't this be better if it was unbounded, if it was truly scalable? Those people become our allies. And so I'm really excited to see that fruit just starting to get harvested, starting to see some recursive people come back to the original implementation of Bitcoin, and see that come to glory, basically. And so I think there's a lot of things to be excited about in that regard. We are bringing good people into the space. There's lots of really cool stuff happening. We had like 1.5 billion transactions over the last month and a half, to round out the end of the year from unknown sources here in the ecosystem. Our average block size over at Gorilla Pool was over 200 megabytes for the last 6 or 7 weeks. And it wasn't some time. We don't know what it was. It's just somebody using the public infrastructure to generate transactions on the network. And that makes me bullish. And, to get away from the hey, this is not investment advice or the typical nonsense that people say, I just want to put a punctuation point on it here at the end of 2024, in that the real investment opportunity, the opportunity in Bitcoin has always been about the system. It has been about the network. It is about what can be disrupted with the technology. Holding the asset is itself a completely other animal. It is a different thing. There's been a huge amount of opportunity cost in not just sitting and holding the asset. In fact, every dollar that's been deployed into almost anything else other than simply holding blockchain assets is money that could have been better deployed into just doing nothing, which is a very weird set of incentives. And I've also talked in 2024 about the problems of that becoming a growth in the space. One of my biggest articles of the year was talking about the Michael Saylor effect, in that MicroStrategy has stopped doing what MicroStrategy does as a business. They're software. They're an intelligence company in the software space. Doing things from like accounting intelligence, sort of proto AI stuff 20 years ago in decision making across business processes and various things in order to micro strategize the way to optimize your business. They don't do any of that anymore. They have fired the people that produce things at that company in order to allocate more money into just stacking BTC as their primary focus of the company. And they've been rewarded for it, which then demands that other companies look at the same thing. And that's very interesting from a lot of perspectives. But the spillover, the second order effect of that is, imagine if a company like Apple just puts $1 billion into BTC instead of research and development into the new Mac OS or the new iOS or the new iPhone or the new Apple Watch. What if the product cycle of a company like Apple goes from 12 months to 24 months and then 36 months and 48 months. And all of a sudden you don't get a new iPhone every year because they make more money if they just put more money into BTC. So they do nothing. They become less productive in order to become more wealthy. The second and third order effects of that kind of thing, really, it leads to general economic slowdown. And that's a real problem. That's very scary. The other major thing was the fact that the mainstreaming of the crypto narratives with Donald Trump being elected as president. He sees himself as the crypto president or the Bitcoin president, depending who you ask. And then hiring people like Howard Lutnick, who is like Tether's banker's banker. And I don't know that that's a good thing either. The second and third order effects of that kind of thing is a little bit like the establishment of the Federal Reserve. It's kind of a group of shifty bankers that keep sort of establishing themselves closer and closer to the center of the network. And then they become hey, also we're found in the IRS. And if you don't pay your bills on time, well, you can be in a little bit of trouble. And that can be a problem too. So I think there's a lot of stuff like that where the economic incentives are really problematic. And so I think in 2024, we're going to look back and I really hope we look back and say, man, we almost went over the cliff on a lot of these bad ideas, and hopefully we scooted in and pulled stuff in to make for a landmark year in good ways that we can look back and say, wow, we made the right decisions. And that right decision that we made about blockchain technologies bearing fruit over the 10, 20, and 30-year time span. So that's my hope. That's my hope for 2024. To everybody who has not yet done so, please like, subscribe, hit the alert bell, because we will be back doing live shows in 2025. We will do the CoinGeek weekly live stream until either the heat death of the of the solar system or whatever. I'm going to keep doing these forever, and I do them for you. Really, I thank our sponsors, but ultimately I thank you, the audience. You guys really make this a good time. On a personal front, I have been implementing my own personal 4-year strategy. So when the pandemic started, one of the main things that I wanted to do, I could no longer go to the jiu-jitsu gym the way I wanted to, and that was a real coup for me. It was really difficult. I was a total gym rat. And so what I decided to do was focus on lifting weights in the garage and also eating calories to grow my muscles, and that also made me a little bit fat. And so some people might say very fat, and I can't say that they're entirely wrong, but put on a good amount of weight, eating lots of protein and lots of sourdough and whatever else. And then now since early 2023, basically upping my volume, but lowering my calories. So I eliminated my limited my calorie intake by 200 calories a day in order to slowly cut here. So since early 2023, I've actually lost 72 pounds since early 2023. And that's kind of my big number here. So I'm in the best shape of my life. I kept most of the muscle that I put on. I have eliminated most of the fat that I put on during the 2020 and 2020 through 20. It's the hardest thing to say, through 2022. So the weight that I put on, I've kept the lean mass, and I've gotten rid of a lot of the unlean mass. And so feeling pretty good about myself as we enter 2025 and work on my own personal goals, my own health stuff. I think it got a little overboard with the bulking, but feeling pretty darn good about the cut. So looking for Beach Bod 2025, and we'll send pics. So please subscribe to my stuff on X, and we'll share progress photos and all the rest of that. So we're going to cut to our guest. Our guest today is Eli Afram, or because I'm from Chicago, I would probably say Eli Afram. And a really good guy, old school big blocker, and a guy that I've known since probably 16 or 17, the beginning of the sort of big block Bitcoin experiment. And we're going to go over some of the sobering news of 2024, also the stuff that we're optimistic about. And I'm pretty pumped for the show. You should follow him. He's a Justice Mate on X. You should follow his content too. He doesn't post a whole lot anymore, but he's up to some cool stuff pretty consistently. Just a good guy, genuine, authentic, and smart guy with his own business acumen and a lot of good stuff to say. So we will cut to a break from our sponsors, and we will be right back with Eli Afram. Eli Afram. Is that the right way, or do you?
Yeah, that's right.
Emphasis
that's
somewhere
right.
else. Okay, all right, good.
Yeah. How you going, Kurt?
I'm quite well, man. How are you?
Yeah, not bad, mate. Not bad. Plowing along. It's been an interesting year.
Yeah, for sure. So, for anybody that doesn't know you, and we have a lot of OG people who are going to say, "Oh man, Eli," and then a handful of people that are going to say, "Who the heck is
this guy?" Because I've been more quiet lately than I used to be, especially on things like social media and all that sort of stuff.
Sure.
I used to be a real loud mouth back in the day. Yeah.
One of us.
And then it was like, oh, this is just endless. And you seem to have the energy for it, Kurt. I commend you on that.
Yeah. I'm maybe that's my toxic trait. Like for me, when there's I don't know how to put it. It's the thing that bugs me the most is misunderstanding. Because I think I don't open my mouth unless I think something valuable is going to happen. And that value can be silly, funny, whatever. Like I can have a casual conversation. But if I'm talking about something that I think really matters, something that's key, like I'm not going to open my mouth unless I'm positive that there's something valuable. And so when people, continue to say, "Oh, here's why Kurt's involved. Here's why it's a scam. Here's why, whatever here's how Craig and Calvin and all these people, are involved in, whatever satanic rituals they're involved." Like, so when that becomes the narrative, I feel a duty to write those things. And it could be my religious background. I've done, classically, I come from kind of a missionary background and stuff too. So I'm used to like, hey, this is going to be dangerous, but I'm going to be the guy to talk about the sketchy stuff.
I have a similar Christian upbringing as well, which I'm sure we've spoken about before.
We have
privately. Yeah. Despite, I think a lot of people think I'm Jewish, and there's a lot of reasons for that.
Your name sounds very.
It is a very Jewish name.
Hi, I'm Eli from Jerusalem. How are you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Even the surname.
Yeah.
The reason for that, maybe I could just. It's my father's side. He's something called Aramean. The Arameans were a very, very early Christian community from the first century, and they spoke the biblical Aramaic, which Jesus Christ spoke. As that's still passed down from the family, we still speak that. But anyway,
that's incredible.
That's that part of it. But yes, it's confusing for a lot of people when I say what I am.
Sure. No, that's actually a really cool history. I'd love to. Not on the CoinGeek show, but I'd love to sit and talk about, because my history of money, like the reason any of this is interesting to me is I've always been interested in the history of all of that, and that's another piece of history that is like, we're not talking about that. We're not talking about those people and whatever, and like, sorry, that deserves to be told.
but being on that topic, I think it's a good segue to just chat a little bit about we criticize BTC people so much, and I have in the past many times as well, and I know you do as well, in the sense that not so much. I don't think you ever go out to attack people or tarnish them in any way or anything like that, but you do. You're very kind of in your small blocker mentality, and this is how that But that mentality that we speak of, and the reason why I kind of want to bring this up is because it is in so many ways it becomes like a religious mindset that some people have. But I gotta say, that mindset, I'm beginning, it exists in BSV as well. There are some people that are just so toxically this way or that way, and sometimes I wonder where that actually comes from. People get really riled up when you attack something that is that they see as an attack almost on their identity. When you bring up religion or politics, for example, people get so wound up by that, and that's because if you're kind of telling someone, hey, you're probably wrong about this, and that kind of challenges their entire worldview, which means their own identity is at stake, because that's what they've bet their identity on. Just the same way you do with religion. You bet your identity on something. And I'm seeing people have done that with, BTC, BSV. The other day, we were having a back and forth on Twitter, and I had a response to someone who said, "Oh, look, I've blocked those two." You noted some toxicity in there, and there is, and that's just part and parcel of the space, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I think it's an interesting point, because for me, I'm able to separate the sort of cultural significance from the commercial significance, and I really see a good part of this is just commercial competition. So even like the really contentious stuff, like some of the lawsuits where it's a little bit like, hey, I'm a private person, this is an attack on my humanity, and these both directions, and be like, yeah, but this really originated from the fact that there's a lot of intellectual property tangled up on both sides and all this stuff, and like you guys have turned it into a personal thing, but it is actually a commercial dispute. Like, these are civil suits and some of these kind of things, and like, you turn it into something else. And I get that, because a little bit of that is the social engineering aspect of things. Like, you want the court to be sympathetic about the person, but in reality, like, we're talking about, hey man, we're talking about patent portfolios and these kind of things. But then when you don't have some other anchor in your life that really matters, and it can be as simple as, hey, I really care about like my wife and children or or whatever. But a lot of these people don't have anything other than Bitcoin. And I think that's really it, is that Bitcoin has replaced church and family and all these things. Like, Bitcoin is the place where they found community.
Yeah.
And you can see this in other players. People get really into like music or other things too, where it's like, man, if
Yes.
you tell me my band isn't the best, like I'm gonna lose it.
Yes. That's
And
very true. But you know, Bitcoin and crypto's got this other thing where people's money is at stake too. So
correct.
if they're wrong, their livelihood is at
Yeah.
stake, and that's where it gets really, I think it just adds that extra dimension to the whole why people get so bloody riled up.
Yeah.
But on the court case thing, yeah, I mean, we said before this show started that we thought he was probably going to win.
Yeah. There was, for
Yeah.
the most part, I think COPA always had me very nervous. I figured Craig would win most of these civil cases among like the Hodel Knot case and Kleiman. He won. The small blockers will say he lost because, whatever, but you look at those things and I think a lot of those were pretty clear cut. And then COPA, to me, just because of the nature of the people involved, like these are some of the richest, most powerful people in the world.
It is very powerful. Yeah.
And Craig's story on this stuff was not tight. It's never been tight. It's compelling. Yes. It's very compelling, but it's never been like, oh yeah, he's going to get in there. Like these 5 things are going to happen and whatever. And to me, a lot of people did. A lot of people are saying, hey, oh yeah, it's crystal clear. He's going to nail this stuff. And I've always been like, man, even if it's good, like the problem with the sterility of his content has always been problematic to me. Just knowing like Satoshi got hacked in 2014, doxed, he lost all of his stuff. We know this. We know that the hacker got into his account and threatened Satoshi and other developer. He was even emailing like Peter Todd. He was trying to extort money from all kinds of people from Satoshi's account. So it's like, okay, once somebody's been all the way into your stuff, there's fingerprints on everything. Like everything's a mess. The sterility is never coming back. And so that's always been my biggest problem with court in general. Not to mention, like you can talk about court corruption or some of this other stuff too. But like you're showing up with, here's my box of evidence. It's been in a fire and it's been in here and it's been in my enemy's trunk for a while, but it's my evidence, and it's like,
yeah. It's an extremely, when you look at it from the beginning and everything involved, it's an extremely convoluted story. I mean, so much has happened to Craig Wright and the saga of Satoshi and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
One thing I like that the lawyer said at the start, I mean, they made the argument that there is no one else that stands to to represent Satoshi with and the intimate knowledge of all that sort of stuff. Look, I think he is. That's where I kind of after all this, I think he is. I could be wrong, and I accept I could be wrong, like everyone else can be wrong in things. But that's kind of my position.
For what it's worth.
For what it's worth. There were some people, let's call it the community. There were some people in the community that just kind of, the way they behaved after that. Ryan X. Charles comes to mind because he just went really, he was unhinged after that. Just, I mean, and it really, really surprised me because Ryan X. Charles, as far as being, I guess, an intellect of sorts, really surprised me with a lot of things he did. There was one time where he recorded a video. I believe Craig was Jesus Christ returned, if you remember that. Yep. And then there was another, but then to kind of, to do the theory of Bitcoin document where he was kind of with him over and over and had this long conversation, and then to just turn around and say fake Toshi, and I'm going to, to turn all that around from one moment you're positioned there, 1 minute you think he's Jesus, and then the other minute then you're doing these documentaries, and then you're doing, and then you you take, I don't know how many steps that is backwards, but then to just flip and say he is, I'm going to sue him and all this sort of stuff. I don't know. I mean, there's something to be said if you're that, unstable in your position. I think there's a problem there. But just bite your tongue. I think. And I think a lot of people just sometimes need to just bite your tongue, where it's you can't just flippantly kind of jump in and say this and think I'm gonna. But he's made a lot of those mistakes, I think. But it's a shame because I did like him at the time.
Ryan. I think it's a couple things there. Our culture, like just the amount of decorum has dropped considerably. Where 10 years ago, 15 years ago, like if you got fired from a job or whatever, it was always like, I'm gonna leave well, so that the next place isn't going to be afraid to hire me because I'm going to leave poorly, right? Like these are just. But now something about social media culture has turned into, everyone is like your scorned girlfriend, and it's like, guys, these relationships, again, these are business relationships in a lot of ways, and so. But there's been a lot of like line blurring, I think, about what's appropriate. Like, what is this relationship that we have? But it's a weird thing. And then Ryan, on top of it, I think Ryan is he's actually, as much as I like Ryan and as valuable as I think that he can be, it's actually never really turned into something valuable with him. Even across his whole career, like he's been in a lot of the right places at the right times on a lot of things. But he always is kind of the first guy to leave. If you look at him, even going way back to like Coinbase and some of these things, Ryan's always like, yep, here it is. I'm going to take my exit. I'm going to do another thing. Raises money, has other big idea, gets a bunch of hype. First guy out the door. Like he kind of takes his walking paper, like the check and the walking papers are early with Ryan.
Yeah, it's interesting.
4 or 5 times that I can think of.
So, oh, wow. Okay. You've been tracking it better than I have. But
honestly, just thinking about the exits, because he was with Clemens back in the day, and like yours.org, and he walked from that pretty early. Money Button was the same kind of thing. Raised a bunch of money, did a bunch of stuff, built a bunch of hype, sold it to Fabric, if I recall, and then same kind of thing. So and then his next one was that Heartmail, same kind of thing, like raised money, put some stuff together, got a team, marketing, all the stuff, and then he's out the door again. So it's, I don't know, getting broken up with by Ryan. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, yes. The history is probably something else that I wasn't familiar with the Coinbase history there, but
he was way back. He was, I think he was the first. He was like Coinbase's lead engineer or something in 2013. So he was, and he left. He left when all that stuff kind of turned into like digital currency group, Cabal and whatever, which I get. Like that's not a criticism, but it was still, hey man, if it was you in there, like I think they replaced him with Charlie Lee or something like that. And then it was like,
that's right. I do remember when Charlie Lee took the reins, and then Litecoin joined the circus, and
So
and now it's Litecoin's not even a thing.
No, it's the whole thing. It's pretty bizarre. But so let's reel it back. Let's talk a little bit more about 2024. The reason I wanted you to come is you're a guy that's been around for a long time. You've been a big blocker since I think since before there was a BSV. I remember meeting you in like the mid Bitcoin Cash era. I think is when me and you first met. And like let's talk about some of the other stuff going on. Like I don't think 2024 has been a vanguard year for big blockers. I don't think anybody's going to look back and say, 2024 was the year we really put the momentum together. But
I mean, someone tweeted the other day, and I thought that it was quite a bit of a revelation. But it's the fact that Roger Ver and Craig Wright, both people that were very, very staunch big blockers, are now, sentenced, so to speak.
Right.
It's really really, really bizarre. And I know that you like Roger. Or, you
Yep.
know, he's really, I truly believe he's tried to do right by the big blocker community and by what's best for, when we say big blocker, I think it just loses a lot of people, but what's best for Bitcoin, really. And it's such a shame. The value of, if these people saw the fruition of their ideas and what they were pushing for, I mean, what BTC is worth today could have been astronomically so much more. And that was the argument. That's why it's like people were asking us back in the early days, why are you so fixated on supporting, you know, big blocks? Well, because the potential for it is astronomical. And yes, we all want to make money. And guess what? The best way you can make money is to have big blocks. You just got to get on with it. And but yes, it's amazing how powerful social engineering can be.
Well, they can't get past the asset value, even that. So just I can picture this sound bite, the last 90 seconds being taken and being like, well, no, we proved that it's more valuable to be small block. And it's like, no. Like take one, like take the zoom lens off, right? Like let's look at the landscape and say, okay, BTC has lost 50% of its market dominance in the crypto economy since 2017, since the split. It was like 99% of all capital was in Bitcoin until 2017. And now it's...
That's right. I recall that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And now it's something like 55% for the last year, but it was down in the 30s for years and years and years.
And that actually coincided. I remember there was a graph, and maybe it was Roger Ver that posted it originally, but there was a graph that showed the mempool spiking on BTC. And the moment it started to spike was the same moment it started to lose that 90% market share. It was a fascinating, and I think that was very telling. Now it's a little, look, now it's changed. The whole thing's kind of like, you know, there's going to be digital assets coming left, right, and center, and there have been, and so you're going to lose value there too. So BTC will lose value. I mean, there's just so many now to choose from, and every day there's a new blockchain, and it's all about how they market it and how they hype it and all that sort of stuff. But look, while we're on that, there's a lot of, if you remember, one of the BSV, what was it? Was it a war cry? I don't know what you'd call it, but the price doesn't matter. You remember that?
Sure.
And maybe I was guilty of saying it once upon a time too. Maybe I said it once or something like that, but it matters. It absolutely matters. And this is why, because a few things. You know, another stupid thing, I think a lot of BSVs say, oh, if you want to build it, not everyone's in a position where they can just build. Not everyone has that money, not everyone. But hey, if the price was good, some of these people would have had some financial capability, to build something.
Sure.
And I think that's been, you know, I mean, who are we kidding when we say price doesn't matter, really?
I think it really depends on the context. Like short term, it doesn't matter. So I think when that was being said initially, sure, you know, BTC's popping off. It's like, hey man, this stuff takes time. Like this stuff is cyclical and whatever. Like, right. You know, now what is it? 4 years of underperforming the market trend and stuff. It's like, okay, like that's a very different signal that's being given to us. But it's still, even now, just looking at it, like the reasons for this stuff, like the Tether stuff and the market manipulation and Binance, and you get market makers in, you know, dark market. Who are your market makers? Oh, we don't talk about that. It's like, okay. And so like this fraud economy, and this is actually maybe the worst thing in 2024 And I've been generally positive about like the Trump administration, some of the people that are being put in positions that matter and that kind of stuff.
Yep.
I've been like, okay, this is cool. Like I like that. I like that. The biggest negative for me has been Howard Lutnick, Tanner Fitzgerald. Like he's essentially Tether's banker's banker. And so it's like, ooh, can we not please put that guy in charge of the Treasury Department? Because it's one of those things where if you go back in time, you look at like the Roosevelt administration or some of these things where like you create a department that has these new powers and you install these things and say, this is the official way we're doing it. And whatever fraud there was bundled up in it can kind of just be like, well, that's just how things run. And that's my biggest concern, I think, coming out of 2024 is that the Tether Cabal basically reaches so much escape velocity. And I've been calling them the Tetheral Reserve for a very long time because really that's how the Federal Reserve was too. Like they were kind of a sketchy group of bankers that are like, hey, look, we'll be your central bank. Now now it is what it is, and it really could become the same. I really hope not. I hope things get ground to a halt and the books actually get opened here. But I've been saying audit the Fed for 20 years, and like it was real cool, like Ron Paul and all this stuff, but like Ron Paul lost too. We lost that battle. People don't want to audit the Federal Reserve. They want cheap dollars. So
that I mean, I find the whole concept of the Fed a little interesting. Like it's just I kind of don't get it. I don't get how it's a independent organization that isn't part of the government technically. I don't know. The whole thing is just
very complicated,
and it shouldn't be. It should still be backed against. We know they should still be backed against something. You can't just endlessly print. So it is. It's just Tether. But speaking of Tether, do you think that Tether is Sorry, I'm back.
No worries.
Are you keeping that in?
All I heard, do you think Tether? And then you froze. So
yeah, do you think that maybe that was the government doing it? Because my question was, do you think Tether has some government involvement?
Almost certainly at this point. I think they're one of the largest bond holders now of US debt. So I mean, it really is an incredible coup of power to say, hey guys, like we created billions, perhaps even trillions of dollars of profit, depending on what you're measuring. And then you take that to bolster and absorb the debt of the people you're trying to replace. I mean, that's what, if I was a predatory capitalist and I really wanted to replace the power structures of somebody else, like just quietly buy their debt until you're their biggest debt holder. Now you have you're holding the leash. And so, the U.S. military and whatever, policing and this and that, like the New York Attorney General's office has found Tether guilty of fraud and these things. And like, but ultimately, like, what are you going to do, man? You're going to put Paulo in prison? Like,
well, yeah, they're not doing anything about it. I mean, it's obvious.
Slap on the wrist, pay us a fine.
Yeah, it's all smoke and mirrors. It's something. I mean, it's really, really bizarre. But like, this is counterfeiting. Like, if you look at the definition of it, I mean, you're printing USDs. Sure, it's not the native currency, but it's still USDs.
Yeah.
And, if, let's say Russia or China did this, the government would be all over it.
There would be U.S. Marines, boots on the ground, 100%.
Any country, if Venezuela did this, or if someone, I don't want to, but if any country did this,
it's not even an if. We've seen this. Like I can think of half a dozen dictators in third world countries that are in a hole in the ground because they're like, you know what? We're gonna print some money. So
that's where I kind of, you ask me, but it's gonna it's going to blow up, because this can't go forever. It'll blow up. I don't know when it's going to happen. I hope it doesn't happen soon.
Right.
But
debt doesn't just disappear, and we're way overdue for a serious recession too. That's the other thing that's really got me. You see like a 10-year cycle where it's like go up, we go down. We just have not really had a down cycle since 2008, and I'm like, man, we are like 5 to 7 years overdue for a pretty good reset.
Yeah, I mean, I if you saw Musk's tweet about the because how much debt does the US have at the moment? It's 33 trillion, 38 trillion.
Yeah, pushing 35 trillion or something like
$35 trillion dollars. I mean, that is such a astronomically large number.
Yeah.
But it was, I think that's like close to 25% the income that the government gets. So you're paying so much interest. I think it was like 25% of what taxpayers pay goes to interest to pay that off, or something or other. It was a really large number of and as a taxpayer, you'd be very, very frustrated by that. And I don't think the average person even knows that that's happening.
I don't get it. Well, the average person isn't paying net taxes. That's the thing.
Yes.
Half the population is receiving money on the dole, so they don't care. They're allowed to vote, but it doesn't actually. They don't get it.
What percentage of the population gets dole money?
It's probably close to 50%. The way the tax code works,
that's a lot.
Especially if you have like just having children and having a typical income. Like the average income earner in this country is like households are making like 60 grand a year. And if you're earning 60 grand a year and have 2 children, you are you're in the tax return category. So you're getting a check for 2 grand, 3 grand or something at the end of every tax year, because yes, there's money cycling out of your account. So it feels like you're paying taxes, but you're getting net money back generally. And
you're getting a small percentage of it back, right?
You're getting the overage back, but when you calculate out the amount of money, because these people they're on Medicaid, they're on like there's all these things that they're receiving more money back than they're putting in. So if you calculate out everybody's net productivity versus how much money they're getting from the central system, it calculates out that way. So in the US, your upper middle class are actually the people that are paying the lion's share of the taxes for everything, because super wealthy, like trusts, foreign corps, and whatever, like they can make the money not go into the system that way too. But it's your people earning like 150 grand a year up to a few $1 million a year. Your big earners, your executives, and which is a very small portion of the population. Yeah. They're paying the lion's share of the actual taxes and getting the least benefit from it because they don't qualify for any programs. So it's all paying in and no taking out for, your typical professional that's, wears a suit to work, that kind of thing.
Right. Because I know in Australia, in the top tax bracket, you're paying, I think about 48 or 49% of the income at that top bracket. They've been careful not to go to 50%, I think, because I think, it doesn't look good when you're saying you're paying half of your wages to tax. But anyway, yes, BSV.
Let's focus here. So 2024, you have a project that I know has been in production. I think a lot of people, if you haven't been around for a few years, may not recognize the name AMLA Gold, but it's let's hear it. I know you have work that's being done. It's still I don't know where you're at. I know there was stuff happening in 2024, but I'm guessing a little bit of friction due to
look, I'll gladly touch on that. We were having a lot of back and forth with Peter Schiff, who was interested in what we had. I can't get into the details only because of the NDA, but I can say that we had around 20 different meetings on occasion. It was,
Wow.
you don't do that as unless you're serious about
Mm.
wanting to. And really putting pen to paper was, it kind of came down to, I remember one pivotal moment in that where he was like, oh, BSV, okay, so because we were explaining you can record data on the ledger and all this sort of stuff, and he was asking how much it costs to record data. We're like, well, it's actually quite trivial because we're talking micro penny transactions and all this sort of stuff. And he started to really get it. He's like, oh, okay. So he's like, unlike Bitcoin, this BSV actually has utility. That was what he said, and he was like, yeah, you get it. It's great that you get it. It's like, because you can use that. You can use that to record data immutably, and so he really, really understood that. Of course, he heard something negative about it, as you do. And our position was, look, this is all being, we know that there's this voice on this side saying that all these negative things, and like, look, it's being fought out in court right now, and we're kind of, we believe this is the case, and that Craig is, the one who created Bitcoin, but let the court case speak for itself. Of course,
Yeah.
when that happened, and I'm probably not alone in the fallout of that, but I think, I don't want to put words in Peter's mouth, because but there was definitely a change in tune after that, because you lose the backing of what we're about at that point.
Sure.
So that was a bit of a blow, and we never kind of we never kind of picked it up again after that. That was kind of like, okay, well, we were so close, I felt, and my co-founder Bill, he would agree that we were very close. At least we thought, that's what we thought.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's very unfortunate. I'm probably not the only one that
Yeah.
suffered from that
Definitely.
fallout.
Definitely took wind out of people's sails. We had, even just from like a community standpoint, you get the people that are just, hey, I'm a big fan, and it's like, all right, if Craig's not going to be, my cheerleader or whatever, why am I here? Why am I doing this? I think there were a lot of people, and I think there are some very practical, like in your example, very practical, like, hey, this would be good for business, and it just allows us to say, hey, yes, there is controversy, but we're going the right direction. But when it's, hey, now now the controversy has become, that
More
much more
controversial.
official, right?
Well,
So
but
yeah,
yes, look, I mean, I remember saying to him that, either way, whichever way this goes, you're going to get some finality and and he did.
yeah.
Not the right way though, for us, but yes. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that I think we have done that has positioned us in not in the best place we could be. I think, and you do work for CoinGeek, and I used to write for CoinGeek as well, Kurt. But there was, I think, just maybe from a management perspective, look, I'm not I'm not throwing stones at say Calvin. I mean, without Calvin, we wouldn't even have the original Bitcoin. So let me just underscore anything I say with that.
Yeah.
Without Calvin, you would not have Bitcoin. So he made sure that the original protocol remained alive. But just generally, I think we threw way too many stones, burnt way too many bridges. And I know that a lot of these people aren't people that a lot of these people may not be good people. They may not be people that you want to, we refer to them as criminals, as this and that, and I just don't think it helps in business to do that.
Well, it's especially because the market is so unsophisticated. I think just being like, hey, we're not crypto, right? On the one hand, yes, that's largely true, but it's also just having that conversation requires a lot of nuance with people who don't understand the politics of it. They don't understand broadly what it means. They hear crypto and they think, isn't that Bitcoin thing? Or like, where does Bitcoin and Ethereum have crossover? And that's, you're already over the heads of 90% of anybody that's looking at it. So when you say, well, we're not crypto, you're already asking people to do 20 hours of research on what the hell we're talking about.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of specificity from a marketing standpoint is also, it's difficult. And then at the same time to then say, yeah, but tokens and all these things that can be done in the crypto space can be done better in BSV. And it's like, well, wait, what, but why? Or where is the cultural differentiator? And so yes, I agree that there's a lot of stuff like that too, just from a comms standpoint. That's a little bit like, well, you have to look at this graph. So
I hosted a blockchain in business conference in Sydney, not last year, the year before, and it was good. It was successful. But I remember that we had a panel, and I remember one of our BSV speakers, making that comment about crypto. Oh, well, we're not crypto. And I remember someone, some of the people that were kind of business people, not BSV people, business people, they were just thrown off by that. And you're right. Like,
right. What does that mean?
I don't think it's valid. It doesn't help anyone saying that. It just confuses people, and it goes to you're right. In our own circle, there's merit, but outside of that, we need to dumb things down so much, and we haven't done that. We have not dumbed it down. We need to speak in layman's terms. My other big project is the AnonSurvey. It's a mouthful. I'm going to go back to BVote. That was the original name for it. I'm going to rebrand it. So I'm working on a relaunch of that. But where was I going with that point? Yes. So the point was that, to make it easy, one of the things I did with it was that it didn't require Bitcoin or a wallet. You pay some money with PayPal, and with that money, you can buy a number. I call them tokens, but that you're buying survey responses or voting responses. So you want to you want to get responses for 1 million people. Well, you got to pay for 1 million tokens, so to speak. But yeah, it was you just used credit card, PayPal, or whatever, and that was the idea behind that. But yeah, I think especially in BSV, partly we suffer a lot because we're so we're so proud. On one hand, we're so proud that we have this amazing blockchain that is Turing complete. But even to say that to someone, you've lost them.
That's another one of those.
In fact, I don't think anyone even in the BSV community even knew what Turing. Well, I shouldn't say that. I think 95% of people didn't know what the phrase Turing complete even meant, and now we throw it around with an expectation that people should know what it means.
Yeah. Well, it's jargon. It's just like anything else. It's like the reason why it's unpleasant to spend time with a bunch of doctors on their day off. It's like they just know a bunch of detail specific, industry specific stuff that they all can relate about. And like, what the hell? I don't know what 2/3 of the words mean. And you spend 60 hours of your week every week for the last couple of decades doing a thing that I don't know anything about. So what are we going to talk about, right? And it's a little bit the same thing. I think blockchain people in general can be very insular and also, the propensity for neurodivergence and some of that stuff, and then add in the BSV spin on it. It's like, no, we got to go one level deeper on the nuancy stuff, and it's certainly not helpful from that standpoint.
Yeah, and we have our own technical terms. I think a lot of what the technical jargon we use is valid, like you say, but I just don't think it's appropriate in bigger circles. But
Sure.
But then mixed with that, because if we're going to start throwing around terms, and what we've seen is the opposition, when I say the opposition, all other cryptos, let's say, they use, they're coming up with all of these fancy names for things that are really worthless. Like, what's the funniest thing? What's the funniest proof of that you've heard that is legitimately there's been some good ones. Proof of it doesn't come to mind now, but there have been some really interesting kind of proof of time or something. I don't know what it was, but it was just this weird kind of slant on it, and then they try and advertise it as if it's and most of it is marketing. And that's the thing with the opposition, it's majority marketing. I mean, look at Solana, does so well, but it falls over a lot, but it has excellent marketing. That's something we should have done better, marketing.
Well, it's the Silicon Valley thing, which is why I talk a lot about Silicon Valley, is that, hey man, they're controlling $1 trillion in capital in essentially one city, and every tech startup for the last 25 years is in the portfolios of 5 or 6 firms. They obviously are all like, yeah man, like I'll be your angel, you do this, you're series 1, like we'll push it up to Sequoia in 3 years, everything's going to work out, right? And then but they have a template of quote unquote success. If you actually look at the books, almost none of those companies make money from hey, we're cash flowing profitably. Uber, for example, is like, wow, what a success story. It's like, not if you look at the books.
That's valid.
But they create this air of success. It doesn't matter that Silicon Valley Bank went belly up and had to be bailed out by US taxpayers. Hey man, we're all rich, we're all successful, right? And like it's the meme. They live in the meme. Much the same as like your BTC people live in the meme that like we're successful. Look at everything we've accomplished. And it's like nothing about your tooling has changed. You don't actually have more customers. You got 3 really rich groups of people. You got your Michael Saylor, your Larry Fink, and whatever to decide to buy a lot more BTC. But like that's like how is that a victory? What changed? What made your thing more? What made your idea bigger? What allowed it to go fractal or go exponential in a way that actually changed people's lives? And this is the problem. So I have said for years, despite the fact, everybody would say Bitcoin is such a big success, I continue to call it a gigantic failure that is much like Uber. Nobody's actually making money. It's churning, all of it's churning, but nobody's lives have been made objectively like, wow, this is great. It's like, I use Uber Eats. It's too expensive. It turned my sandwich into an $18 sandwich instead of a $12 sandwich, right? And the drivers, but you don't think,
but it has added value to. I mean, I use it, and I think it's much better than catching a taxi.
It is, and that's the thing is there's aspects about it that are better, but from a cash flow standpoint, like if you look at the whole business model. Like you've driven down wages of drivers, you have raised the price of food delivery, package delivery, and taxi cost. Like the consumer cost is actually higher in most circumstances. Not every circumstance, but
isn't that capitalism? Isn't it?
I don't know. Is it? Like sure. For the sake of like the people who do, but who's making more money? It just feels like all the cost went up, but I don't think if you look at Uber's books, they lose money every year. So they're not making more money.
I don't know. I don't know how that works. I don't know how they can. And I know there's a lot of companies that operate like that. And I think Amazon was one as well in the early days. It was
for sure. No, for like 15 years they lost money every year, and now I think I really think it's been the last 3 years or something they've finally making actual profits on the books. But
yet
something like that.
Yet Bezos is getting richer. So someone's making money. You know, like
there are a few key individuals. So same thing.
Yeah.
Your board of directors at Uber are they're not poor. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. Well said.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, I think, look, what BSV needs is one. We still, for all those that are still holding, I'm holding. I tweeted this. I said something like the majority of my portfolio is BTC, and I got a lot of criticism for that.
Me and you both got criticized because of this. But yes.
Look, token wise, I have astronomically more BSV than I do BTC.
Yes.
But the value has ended up being that BTC is worth a lot more. So it's kind of gone like that. And it is what it is. I hope it flips. I'll be much better off financially if it flips. To those that are kind of worried about that, I'd be much better off if it flipped. But yes, well, on the BSV thing, what we still need is just, we keep saying it, but all right, Teranode's coming. It's testing. You're closer to this than I am. So
we're operating it. We've been operating.
You're operating at Gorilla.
Something like 3 months, and it is a revolution in technology. So I am very pumped about that as a deliverable, like something that, if of all the negative things you could say about BSV, Teranode is like charity.
It's real. It's not vaporware. You're using it. You're running it. So yeah, I think that's like, take that on board. Once the ecosystem has kind of significantly adopted that, all you need is just one killer app.
Yep.
And then the floodgates open. So again, that's kind of people worried about price and all this sort of stuff. It is just one thing that we need.
Yep.
I remember Craig being adamant that was, all you need, just one thing to get the throughput up. Yep. Just get the throughput up, and then just bang, it'll all just start happening.
And even, I've said it a few times this year, and we've had their people as guests more than once, but the Champions TCG people, they created a card game. And it does not create a ton of transaction volume on BSV. It's not, and from that standpoint, it's not like, wow, thank God they're there. As a miner, I'm like grateful for their business, but it's making me pennies a day, right?
Right.
But for their company, what their business has done is they are making money, and just using the ledger to tokenize their assets. But to the consumer, they went out, they've cold called essentially, or walked in and did sales at these game stores. Say, hey, you sell card games? We have a card game. There's a digital component to it. And guess what? You can be an affiliate. So they are paying out tokens to the stores. So the stores push their game first because, oh, cool. Like, not only do we sell the game, but we get this residual income from the game. And so they created a business model using the blockchain for exactly what it should be used for. They're not creating unnecessary spam. It's not some kind of a like, hey, look at all of our numbers. Like, I don't know how much money they're making as a company, but I know they're growing as a company because they have some absurd number of stores. When I looked at how many stores carry their game, physical stores.
Oh, wow.
Walk into the mall and say, wow, there is a BSV powered card game in a foil package. You get physical cards and you get digital twins and all this other stuff. Like, they're running a real business on BSV. And
wow, yeah, that's a good success story.
Yeah,
I don't think I wasn't aware that they were that big.
They don't need to talk about it, and that's the point. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
That's the
Yeah. I
model.
mean, yeah, yeah. We need more of them. So look, I mean, I when is Teranode due to be kind of officially kind of released? I mean, you're part of the testing, right?
So they're not going to tell me, and I think part of it is they didn't want Gorilla Pool to mine the first Teranode block, probably. But Tal mined a block with Teranode, I think it was last week, and they didn't pre-announce it. They didn't do a thing, but all of a sudden in the Coinbase tag, you see like Teranode flag, and I'm like, oh, what is this? So they've been saying Q1 2025 for a while. I have a feeling, and this is speculation,
Yeah.
Kurt. I don't know, but I have a feeling it's just kind of going to be all of a sudden in January or something. They're going to be like, hey guys, here's the golden master upload. Here's how you connect it to your pools and blah, 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 blah. Like, it's on you. If you want to run it. So I mean, but I don't know. So this is not me leaking information. I genuinely don't know. I wish they would tell me, frankly. But
you were kind of praising it as an incredible bit of technological kind of marvel before.
Yeah.
I mean, other than the obvious, what is so incredible about it from your point of view?
So I mean, it's a few key things. I'm really partial to Golang, and I'm really glad that it was written that way. But it's the containerized modularity of it. The fact that, okay, for the time being, I don't need to have a million transactions per second read write. So I don't need to have it on this machine that is constantly doing all this stuff. Like I can basically put it down to like a light hum, and it's like 3 orders of magnitude more efficient than SV Node. Meaning that if our blocks are 200, 300, 400 megabytes, I can basically run it on a laptop, and I'm saving a ton of money on server cost.
Oh wow.
And then as volume goes up, it can be like, okay, what's happening here? Like, is it tokens? Is it a lot of script validation? Is it a lot of whatever? I can just beef up the thing that is doing the one thing. I don't have to beef up the whole system again. So from an efficiency standpoint, it really lets you, I think of it like Legos, where it's like, oh, okay, this Lego is being overworked. I'm just going to put one piece in here that is beefier, but the rest of the system can remain chill. And so just from an engineering standpoint, it's been really nice. And it's also, they've been super conservative about, they're like, hey guys, this is super alpha, like whatever. But the team has been crazy responsive, really nice to work with. And then, taking our feedback, like we've given back pull requests and this kind of thing. They've been like, yeah, this is great. Like we'll pressure test and whatever, merged right in, no problem. Like, especially with the stuff that we're good at. We've done a lot of work with like tokens and script validation. And so they've just been like, collaborative working on this kind of thing. And then, so the final product, at least as I understand it, is pretty collaborative among the people that actually understand the system, have been running SV Node commercially for a lot of years. And so it's, part of it's a culture thing. Part of it's the fact that it's Golang, and the other one is just the efficiency of it. And that the fact that they've been super, again, they're not marketing like, hey, we've changed the world. Like they've literally been like, hey guys, I don't know, it might break, it might be terrible. We're hoping for feedback. And we've run it and been like, no guys, this is really, really nice. It's really smart. Not been buggy. Like we've found a couple of, minor things, and they've been quick to be like, oh, cool, good catch. Like no drama. And I think a lot of like classically in BSV, it's been like, stay in your lane, bro. Like, what's my lane here? I'm just trying to help. But
yeah. No, that's really reassuring to hear. We have an exchange in Australia called BTC Markets. That's the name they had. It was found before the split, so you could forgive them. And they, I was in their offices last year or the year before, and they were, must have been early last year, but they were talking about how their SV node just keeps falling over because of the size of the blocks, and they have to restart the server all the time. So it sounds like sounds like Teranode is the solution for them, just based on what you just said. Yeah.
It'll be a huge for the kind of people that are just like, hey man, I need to run a full node to validate everything,
Yeah.
and that's how we operate. It'll be a huge step in the right direction. Meaning,
Yeah.
even like we could be talking about 50 gigabyte blocks, and it should be very, very, very resource quiet. The
Yeah.
only exception to that is going to be your hard drive read write stuff, because if
Yeah.
it's just a lot of data, writing that data is still going to be intensive. But all the other stuff, all the block validation, script validation, et cetera, that stuff is like stupid efficient. And yeah, so we're really pumped with how fantastic it's been, honestly.
Yeah. No, that's something I might have to reach out to them about as well. We did tell them. We did tell them about it, that it was coming, but that was, it was still, we didn't know when it was going to be released. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, just the other thing look, with the voting system, we have been running that for a little while and been getting feedback from various people. I have had 2 councils from your country reach out. They just wanted to know about it, and one of them's asked for a demo, which I still got to do. So there is some interest there with, yeah, that's the holy grail, getting government involved in some BSV related project.
I think, I still get, for as much hate as I get from lots of, your small blocker troll types, I actually have good relationships with a lot of people who are like, yeah, they're BTC people, but like they look at it and they're like, hey man, we know there's problems here long term with our stuff. And even I talked to like Josh Petty, CoinGeek from Twetch and Ordinal's Wallet and stuff now. Yes. And he's got a foot in each community too. He's got much heavier foot in the BTC community over the last like 2 years now, but because it's where he's making money. But it's the same kind of thing. Like we'll get conversations, or he'll bridge the gap where there's some BTC maxi guy that are like consistently having a problem. They're interested in tokens, but the tokens won't work on BTC because of whatever the reason. And it'll make its way around to me to have a conversation. Yeah. We'll have a call, and they'll be like, you see the look on their face, like, okay, I'm about to talk to Kurt Wuckert Jr., who is the enemy. Here's my horns, right? And then but then you actually work through the problem technically, and they're like, oh wow, they come to realize that like I know how BTC works from a technical standpoint better than their typical people would, and then they're like, oh wow, and then all of a sudden we have a relationship, right? And so like we've seen the same thing with Script. Like Script has done a lot of work again in like, hey, here's an SDK that works with BTC, we'll help you work on it and this and that. And so you start to get the people who are generic Bitcoiners, like maybe people that have shown up in 2020, like totally post forks, they don't know the politics, whatever, and like they get told a little bit like, oh, those guys are the bad guys. But then you start to work with them and they realize, wait, why are the big blockers so much more sophisticated about what Bitcoin is capable of theoretically, but then also practically? Because you talk to the people on the BTC side, the guys that are literally building like, here's a BTC operating system, whatever, and like, but their stuff is crazy. It doesn't work because they don't have any experience with it. To them, it's a lab project, and to a lot of us, it's like, I've been running this infrastructure for 6-7 years,
Yeah.
And
look, I was again at the conference that I was hosting in Sydney. I had invited a lecturer who wrote a paper on Bitcoin, about Bitcoin script. Now, the BTC version.
Yep.
And they were talking about, oh, look, this, the capability and all this sort of stuff that you can do this. When one of our speakers was up there and they were talking about all the amazing things we can do with ours. And I remember the look on this lecturer's face. This is a university lecturer.
Yep.
That, they're the professionals who have the academic knowledge of all these things, but it's amazing. They don't know. They just don't know that Bitcoin in its original design is so bloody capable. and they see it. And I remember her just asking, hang on, is this in Bitcoin? Yes, it's in BSV. It's and you know, this person's wrote a paper about it, and then I think she kind of realized that, wow, there's so much more to it than just what meets the eye. And it's a curse for us, and it's a blessing, because yeah, you're right, this is what we have. You know, we're not the number go up people, but there's so many of those.
But I think the thing is I'm still bullish, and that's the thing, is people say, you're crazy, or you're whatever, you're a marketing shill or something. It's like, no, we are undervalued because we're the most capable. Yes, we have all kinds of problems, and those problems could be a laundry list of problems, but it doesn't change the fact that we actually did the research, we actually built the system that has these capabilities. And the fact that nobody knows about it, to a sales professional, they'd look at that and be like, cool, I'm going to be a billionaire because I'm going to sell this to people. And so
BSV was once upon a time 4th on the market cap. Look, like it or not, that will get people looking and asking questions.
Yeah.
Like that's one of the things that gets, when do you think that might, you said you're bullish, so you have faith in it, and I wouldn't be holding any if I didn't think at some point it has potential either. But what's your guesstimate on when
I think it's one of those things that's going to be slowly then suddenly. And the reason is there's all these consulting groups. You got all these people who are out there. You get I had a guy, I went to a Christmas party, and there's a guy at the thing who's like, he's a professional, what was he? He's like Bitcoin consulting and these kind of things. He didn't know who I was. I was like, oh, cool. I do whatever. And similar conversation what you're talking about. Start talking about what Bitcoin's capable of. And I see the look on his face. He's like, I don't know what he's talking about, but he can tell I'm not a fool.
Yes.
And then, and we've ended up talking a couple times now. And he's like, hey, like because I gave him a couple things to look into, and he's like, why was this buried in whatever? And so, so, now he's the kind of guy that's educating people commercially. He's the kind of guy that would be given a $50,000 retainer to come talk to, here's how Bitcoin works. Right. And so it's one of those things where if you get a company that's looking to do some major blockchain thing, and they're looking at ETH, and they're looking at, whatever, R3 Corda, they're looking at Hyperledger, or they've done the rigmarole, right? And they're like, okay, but we need 100,000 transactions a second for our application, right? So like just filter the list for where that puts us, right? And it's like, hello. so then if you have a real business need, if your business would make a lot more money because your data was low friction and high accountability, you want it on a blockchain, you got one option. And so it forces them to say, all right, let's talk to a person over there. Like, that's it. And it really could be an overnight thing where we wouldn't even have to know. Like, it's not like it's necessarily going to come from, all right, cool, N-Chain's got a thing and they're putting a guy on it, or like it. You can just, like, the docs are out there, the docs are public. These kind of, like, a decent developer can look at it if he doesn't have his own negative preconceptions about the whole thing, to say, I don't know, let's test it. And actually, to that point,
they're hidden away. Yes, sorry, go on.
To that point, we have public architecture or public infrastructure out there for Arc, which is like the MAPI replacement. And it just started getting hit really hard, like, I don't know, a month and a half ago, something like that.
Right.
Like, our average block size was up in like the 200 megabytes. And so I got a bunch of people. I even had people from like Tal and stuff reach out and be like, hey, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
I don't know. We're not doing anything. Somebody's pushing a bunch of transactions to our Arc, Right. And so we started to do a little bit like, okay, what is it? What's coming through here? And it's like, it just looks like generic traffic. There's nothing weird about it. So it's like, there's just somebody out there just doing a thing, right? And so it could be some dude with an app in his basement, or it could be anybody. It could be the biggest company in the world, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the beauty of a private, privacy public blockchain that I don't know, some guy bought a pile of BSV and created like 1 billion transactions over a month or so. And so it was like we last we counted, it was like 1.3 billion, and it's tapered way off.
Wow.
So whatever they were doing, maybe it was a test, maybe it was some specific, I don't know. There's nothing to know about it.
Right.
And
they were just transactions, or they were scripted, or
they seemed very generic. It was just kind of pay to public key hash. There was a little bit of op return script, but it was gobbledygook. I didn't like it. And it was not the same thing over and over again. It wasn't the same wallets. It was literally, it was just a bunch of stuff. So there's no pattern to it that made me think like, okay, it's probably whatever.
Yeah.
And we didn't even notice for the first, I mean, obviously we noticed the uptick, but it didn't occur to me to even look at it until I started getting a couple of people. Then people from even the BSVA people reached out and they're like, hey, we see it's hitting your IP address first. So they're doing the same thing. Like, who's this? I'm saying, I don't know. We just have there's a public ingestion point and they're using it. So
I think it's always reassuring when you have, that, because that's just organic uptake. Like that's how you see it. It's like you've, the old saying of build it and they'll come, and that's what seems to be happening there. I wish it was a bit, I wish it was just a little bit quicker. I mean, one of the painful things about being in BSV is the waiting game, where but yes, I do agree with you, Kurt. I'm bullish about it in the long run, just not the short term.
Yeah, no, for sure. Any other? We've been going a good bit here. So, what are you closing? I'm sure it's about time for you to go to bed.
2 a.m. here in Australia. That's the joy of being an Australian. But it is New Year's tomorrow for me, so it's okay because I got to get myself ready for that night.
I hear you. So,
look,
let's wrap though. Closing thoughts, like 2024. I don't think we touched on everything that needed to be, and I think in some ways it came across maybe a little bit negative, but I think fair. I think 2024 again was like a, hey man, like reset.
I think it was a rough year for BSV. I mean, you had the Craig Wright thing, which sadly, and then there's been a lot of other toxicity, a lot of projects that kind of didn't go their way, probably because of that as well.
Sure.
But look, if you're going to take anything away from it, okay, well, that's settled. BSV has to win on its own merit now, not because of Craig Wright, but because it's technologically superior, and that it is. It has more capability than any other blockchain. You said it right there. I don't like to, kind of jinx things, but I do think this has to be like the bottom of the curve in terms of where we're at. Like it's going to be uphill, especially after But on the news of Teranode, I got to say, if this was any other blockchain that released Teranode, it would be all over the news.
Oh yeah, big time.
Mainstream news and everything. It's just ironic.
Yeah. No, we're fighting uphill. We're fighting uphill against very smart, vicious people. And some number of them I think are also evil, but I think that narrative doesn't help us either. Like, we're competing in a market against people who want to win, and they're used to winning, and that can be our strength.
I also don't think they're all malicious. I think
they're not.
I think most of them are just, not educated on this, and they're going with the majority. But there are a few. I would say they are evil, and you often kind of mention the Greg Maxwells of the world, but he has done some really bizarre stuff over time that makes me scratch my head. And there are a few of those, and they've been, and not just them, but let's say some of these, the MasterCards of the world and all these sorts of things. And there are some that are outright trying to destroy things. But I think the vast majority, and we got to be careful not to just label everyone evil. I think the vast majority are just following the pack.
Yeah.
And then they want to sound like they know what they're talking about. So they grab a microphone and they talk about it. And we think they have the agenda, but no, they're just sheep in that cog.
Yep. 100%. I've said the same thing about Donald Trump. I've had a lot of people reach out and be like, man, why does he got, these handful of the crypto people and I was like, because he's an old man and it's his job to be managerial at the top of the pyramid and ask the people under him, like, I don't know, bring me the 10 best guys and then we'll pick 2 of them. Like,
right.
And who are you going to go to? Right. Like, because his guys that are put on that, they aren't experts either.
Yeah.
They know how to look for whatever. And it's like, okay, who are the 10 most influential people in Bitcoin? All right.
That's right.
And then they're going to pick their people. And then it's just, but this is why the narrative matters. And so got it.
See, I remember, I'm just going to touch on this, but I remember telling Craig a long time ago, I said, Craig, this was a long time ago. This was 2017, maybe 2017. I said, you're losing the information war. And he said, he didn't like that, but he said, can I swear on this channel?
Let's censor it a little bit. We can.
F the information war. We'll crush them economically.
Here's the thing. I think in the very long term, he's probably right. And the reason is that right now, no version of Bitcoin is economically sustainable.
Yeah.
Long term. So if we go 20 years out and nothing changes about all 3 versions, we're screwed. We're all screwed. So we have either one of the other networks chooses to be a lot more like BSV and gets the uptake and adoption necessary to thrive. But that means major cultural changes on BTC and BCH, or everybody comes over to BSV and some like, hey, we got to move here or we die. Like we're the ARC essentially.
Yeah.
Or the other option is nobody will change because we all hate each other too much and we all die together. So those are our options.
Yeah, I don't see them changing, to be honest.
I don't either.
Don't either. Yeah.
Very unlikely.
Which is very bizarre in itself, but yes. There you go.
They're dug in, man.
Well,
Eli,
thanks, Kurt.
Been a pleasure. Happy New Year. It's New Year's Eve for you now, I think. And so
yes, it is.
Get
2 a.m. New Year's Eve.
Get some sleep. And
thank you. And look, it's a pleasure, Kurt. I know you've been around the traps for a long time. Hopefully we can do it again in the new year.
Looking forward to it, man. Good luck, many blessings, sending love and prayers. Thanks for staying up so late just to chat with me. It's been good.
My pleasure, mate. Anytime. Cheers, Kurt.
Take care.
Yeah.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That was Eli Afram live from Australia. So it's actually New Year's Eve for him at time of recording. Everybody, it has been a pleasure. It has been an honor. Frankly, I'm humbled that you would spend your New Year's Eve with me here on the CoinGeek Weekly live stream. It really genuinely means the world to me. I have been broadcasting now since 2003. Obviously not always about Bitcoin, but it has always been a goal of mine to be able to just have a microphone and be able to talk about the things that I care about. My various shows have gone from anything from philosophy to politics, history, sometimes weird crypto, like crypto not in the blockchain space, but unknown or unknowable history, as well as a whole bunch about economics, money, business. And then since 2016, I have been almost exclusively broadcasting, podcasting, and talking about Bitcoin. And it really has been the honor of my life. As much as people will say, that maybe it's been a waste of time, or maybe I'm too focused on one particular thing. It is the thing that I care about. And the fact that you consume this content, it shows me that there are at least some people that are just as crazy as me, and some of you a little bit crazier. So thank you for maybe you crazy lot the most, but it really does mean the world. The fact that I have an audience, that's everything. The ability to talk into this crazy machine and ultimately get feedback from you and share this time, the give and take, it means the world to me. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. So please go spend some time with your family. Go hug the ones you love. Go, if you don't have a lot of people in your life that you love or who love you, like sending prayers, sending love, but maybe it's time to focus on making yourself more prepared for marriage or some other type of relationship. It's that eternal drive to better ourselves and to ultimately be better to the world that I hope inspires you to become part of the thing that makes all of this worth it. If we all set goals and we all work really, really hard to achieve them, we are unstoppable. It doesn't matter how few of us there are. If we have good ideas and a real work ethic, we can make the world a better place. It's just up to us to do it. Nobody else is going to do it for you. And I think that's the thing that really matters to me the most is realizing that there's not a person out there who's coming to save us. Ultimately, we need to save each other. We need to save ourselves. And the religious man in me, the Christian in me says that ultimately salvation comes after all of this. The reward does not come here on earth in most circumstances. But ultimately, it's up to us to be good to each other. Make this place a place worth living. Let's merge all of those good ideas together, and we can share in the abundance that we create by being good to each other. But it ultimately starts with those two ingredients. It's goodness, it's hard work. I'm here to do both. I hope I do both. I certainly fail. I am not perfect. I don't claim to be perfect. And I do my best to apologize when I fail. And ultimately, that's it. And so maybe write a couple things down. New Year time is a time for resolution. And most people break their resolution. I think the record is, 95% of people fail in like a week or something on whatever their stuff is. But ultimately, if you dust yourself off, pick yourself up, and get right back to it, it's consistency over time. It doesn't matter how many times that you fail, if you keep moving forward. So do that. Keep moving forward. Build something that nobody else can build. Be the most you can be, and ultimately be good to each other. So go do that. Enjoy your New Year's Eve. Celebrate. And let's start the year off, New Year's Day, with a fresh start, optimism, hope for the world, and then let's get back to work, everybody. I am looking forward to spending 2025 with you, making it a success. So see you next year, everybody. I'm Kurt Wuckert Jr., 2024. Well, peace out, everybody. Goodbye.